Hey, what's going on? Patrick Kendra here. Thanks for joining me for the Color Masterclass, which is going to go over how to figure out what colors look best on you, why that is, and also how to pair it all together. So it's a pretty in-depth, intense training, and being completely honest, this is the most in-depth and accurate training that I have ever seen on color. I have consumed every resource on color that there is throughout my journey, and this was one of the hardest things for me to understand, sort of coming up. And so now it's one of my favorite things to teach, both to other stylists and to clients and to all the guys around the internet. So color is awesome. And it also seems to be one of those things that guys struggle with the most too, is understanding what colors look good on them and also how to put it together. So if you have ever felt that way, if you're curious, how to look your best in terms of what colors you should be buying or just how to put it all together, this is the perfect place to be. And this is going to save you thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of your life and hundreds of hours of time, first spent not looking your best, but then also to shopping. So if you knew exactly what colors to go get, if you knew what made you look good and you knew how to put it together, think about how much time that's going to save you and, again, how much money. So it's a pretty important training, and, again, excited that you're here. So I'm going to dive into this with you. First and foremost, let's minimize me so we can get out of the way here. Let's understand what color analysis is, or just the process of figuring out what colors look best on us. Okay, so that process is called color analysis. Color analysis has been around for close to 100 years. It is the most accurate, in-depth way that we can figure out what stuff actually looks good on us. Okay, so the term for this process is color analysis. It used to be something where some old lady would come to your house and drape colors over you until you could kind of figure out what worked. And now we've been able to systematize it at a much deeper level. And we're actually working on some computer programming too as well, some software that will be able to help identify what colors look good on you just very, very quickly and accurately. So a lot of exciting stuff in the works. So the basics of this, right? The basics of what colors or what color analysis is we're trying to make the face look good. This is where all of your coloring is concentrated, right? It's where your eye color is, skin color, hair color, all of that. We're trying to make that look good. When you're communicating with others, it's done through the face, right? That's where the majority of my coloring is concentrated. And so we're trying to make that look good. The idea here is that the characteristics of color, right? So all the coloring that's through here should be complemented by your clothing, right? There should be some synergy between face and body. So the stuff down here does some good stuff for us up here. This is easily seen when you're younger. Sometimes you get told, like if you have blue eyes or green eyes, to wear maybe a blue or a green shirt, and that will pull out that color. We understand that, but we typically don't take it further than that a lot of the times. So that's a very elementary version of what we're doing here. So the goal becomes to wear colors that complement your natural coloring, right through here, right on your face, not detract from it. All right, so we're going to go through that process right now so you can understand it. All right, so if you understand this, you will understand everything about color. The right colors to wear are the ones that make you look good. It is not what your mom likes. It's not what your girlfriend or your wife's favorite color is. It's not what the guy at the store is trying to sell you. The only thing that you're trying to do is make yourself look good. That is the grand principle. And that's the grand principle of all things with clothing, right? It's trying to get us to look good. We're choosing fits and sizes that make our body look good, and fabrics too as well. And we're choosing colors that also enhance us and make us look good. That's the idea, okay? So again, just remember the right colors to wear are the ones that make you look good. All right, so moving on past this. The things that you have to understand here, so the elements of color analysis, the basic ones, are hue and value. And we're going to go over this in a much deeper level so you can understand this. But these two principles are very important, okay? So hue is the difference between cooler colors and warmer colors. Value is the difference between light colors and dark colors. So let's get into that. We're going to start with hue, okay? So hue, when we're talking about hue, it's actually defined as like a color. When I say something is yellow or I say something's blue, that's a hue, okay? And some of these hues we will perceive cooler looking or warmer looking, right? Just as human beings, we'll just perceive it that way. So I'll give you an example. If I asked you which one of these squares looks warmer and which one looks cooler, you'd probably say that this one looks warmer and this one looks cooler. So warmer colors will quite literally look warmer, and cooler colors will quite literally look cooler, okay? So we can break this out a bit further. If you actually look at this spectrum of colors here, you're going to see about half are warmer and about half are cooler. Split a color wheel in half and you can see this here. So cooler colors are going to be the ones that quite literally look cooler. Purples, blues, greens. Warmer colors are going to be your yellows, your reds, and your oranges, the things that look hot, right, versus the stuff that looks cool. We can do this with people too. So just like we can look at colors and say, okay, that's warmer or that's cooler, we can look at human beings and say that is a cooler skin-toned human being or that's a warmer skin-toned human being. So this is the first step, is trying to figure out where you fall on this, if you are cooler or if you are warmer, okay? So we're going to go through this list here, but the principle here is that because we're trying to mirror our coloring, if we are cooler looking, we should be wearing cooler colors. If we're warmer looking, we should be wearing warmer colors, because it's going to pull that out. It's going to reciprocate, right? So if we have nice cooler coloring, right, the cooler colors are going to enhance that. And then vice versa with the warm stuff, right? So far, so good. So let's go over the difference between cooler and warmer. And I'm going to give you some visual examples as well, but it helps to break it down like this. These are generic sort of, it's a list of characteristics that you'll typically find under cooler and warmer, right? So cooler people will typically have these traits. Warmer people will typically have these traits. If you find yourself kind of in between here, that's okay. So, you know, some people will say, oh, you know, I can tan instead of burn, so I must be warm. What you're doing is you're sort of adding up each column and saying, okay, well, where do I fall here? So typically, cooler people, they're going to have a bit more of a silvery undertone, which you'll see in a sec visually, okay? So don't get hung up on this just yet. So they're typically going to have more of a silvery undertone. They're going to have more blue eyes, okay? They're usually going to have more pinkishness to their skin, too, as well, rather than sort of a deep olive thing like a warmer folks to have. So more blue overall to their coloring, blue eyes, blue veins. They almost will have a bluishness to their skin. They're typically going to burn instead of get one of those deep, dark, olivey tans, right? It's usually a little bit difficult for these people to tan deeply. And usually they're going to have blue or green eyes. Again, most of the time, right? These are characteristics. Now, the warmer side, here they're going to have more of a coppery, sort of bronzy, golden undertone to their skin rather than that silvery, pinkish thing. They're going to have more browns to their coloring. So they're going to have more brown eyes, more brown hair, things of that nature. And they're typically going to have more greenish looking veins or blue-green veins. They'll also usually be able to have the ability to tan pretty deeply and get one of those nice sort of coppery, olivey tans. And they're usually going to have green or brown eyes rather than those kind of blue or green eyes. All right. So looking at this here, you can kind of see this visually. So you have cooler folks on the left side and you have warmer folks on the right side. What you're going to notice about the cooler women over here is you're going to see, first, a little bit more bluishness and pinkishness and silveryness kind of radiating off their coloring. Sometimes, by the way, it helps to squint at this, and then you'll kind of see that on the left side, you're going to see more blues and more pinks, and on the right side, you're going to see a bit more brown and orange and copper. Sometimes, too, it helps to even look at the same skin tone. Because remember, right now, we're not looking at how dark or light your skin tone is. This is very important. I get people that are, you know, black, Asian, white, whatever, and they're like, this doesn't apply to me. I am X race. It applies across the board. Take a look down here. Black girls, black girls. Do you see the difference? Much more coppery and olivey and brown. This woman here almost looks like she's radiating orange. Look over here. Do you see, even if we zoom in a little bit further here, whoops, there we go. Like, do you see here, there's almost like a bluish kind of silvery thing here. Hue is a little bit difficult to see sometimes, so I want to spend some time walking you through this, but hopefully this makes sense. So again, just kind of squint at it and get a feel. Okay, cooler on the left side, they're typically going to have more blues to their coloring, pinkish, silvery undertones. And on the right, we're going to have a coppery, bronzy thing. And you can always refer to this list here. All right? So that's really the difference between cooler and warmer people. And so it helps to remember that these are on spectrums. So start thinking about where you fall on this. But the idea here is that it's a sliding scale. So it's not going to be, you know, I am super cool or super warm. It's how cool or how warm are you, okay? So just try to figure out where you fall. Do you have very warm coloring, maybe like her down here? Or, you know, maybe you have very cool coloring, like one of these gals up here. Or maybe you're somewhere in between. Right? It's just slightly one side to the other. And so some people can very quickly tell, and some people it takes a little bit longer to determine where they fall. So you might only lean slightly one way or the other. Just remember that it's a sliding scale, and then do your best to chart that out where you fall. Okay, so on a line like this, say, hey, I'm pretty dang warm, I'm maybe a little warm, I'm maybe a little cool, or I am really dang cool. Okay? And we're going to take this, we're going to keep going a little bit deeper, but just place yourself here just for now. So make a mental note or a physical note on where you fall here. The next thing that we're going to cover is value, okay? So value is going to be the lightness or darkness of colors, okay? It defines how light or dark a color is. All versions of color have a light and a dark version, okay? So if you said green or yellow or blue, there's light versions of that and there's darker ones, okay? So again, value is just a scale of light to dark. If I ask you which one of these squares is lighter and which one's darker, it's pretty easy to tell. Just like hue, right? We can see one's clearly warmer and one's clearly cooler, okay? So right now we're focused on light to dark. So again, giving you examples of from light green to dark green and intermediate shades, there's a spectrum. A lot of guys will say something like, I don't look good in green. Really? What type of green? Right? Light green? Medium green? Dark green? All green? Really? Okay. Blue. Yellow. Red. We can continue this train on. The idea right now is we are just understanding that value is a spectrum of color. Okay. What we're deciding here is which value looks best on you. Do you look best in lighter versions of colors? Do you look better in darker versions of colors? Maybe you fall somewhere in between. Again, sliding scale. We're trying to determine which version of a color looks best on you. So let's say we determine that blue is a good color for you. Great. Light blue, medium, darker, where do we fall? All right? And so that's going to help you choose the value. So when we're trying to figure out what value of color we should wear, we're looking at our facial characteristics. This is very important to pay attention to this part. We're looking at facial characteristics. These are things that are not skin, okay? Eye color, eyebrow color, facial hair color. These are the things that are not skin. So, you see on the left here, we have lighter women. We have light hair, light eyebrows, light eyes. And on the right, we have darker, right? So dark eyes, dark eyebrows, etc. So over here, we have lighter colored women. On the right, we have darker colored women. Now, the lighter women are actually going to look better in lighter versions of colors, okay? The darker women are going to look better in darker versions of colors. Sometimes people get the very bad advice to flip that. Somebody will say, oh, you're light. And I don't know what they're talking about, but they're saying, oh, you're light. You should wear darker colors because you're going to show up in photos, right? It's incorrect. What happens when you wear something like that, well, you'll see in just a second here. You're actually going to wash yourself out. We'll talk about what that term means. Right now, try to place yourself on a spectrum of light to dark. Okay? So remember, so we have lighter and we have darker. To give you a clue, right? For me, I'm probably just right of center. You know, I guess the lighting here is a little bit wonky, but you know, I'm somewhat in between. I have kind of blondish, brownish hair. I have blue-green eyes that are sort of medium in depth. So I would probably be, if I had to chart it out, around here. Remember, sliding scale. So if I'm trying to choose color for myself, what I'm going to choose is things that are right here. I am mirroring my own value. So let's say these girls over here, they're going to be choosing colors from this side of the spectrum. These gals over here, this side of the spectrum. So whatever your value is, we're just mirroring it. Let's take a look at when we do this well and when we do this poorly. Right here you have a photo of John Hamm from Mad Men and a bunch of other movies and TV. So on the left here, he's wearing a darker colored suit, and on the right, he's wearing a lighter colored suit. You'll notice that his coloring is a bit on the darker side. So he's got pretty dang dark hair and eyebrows, and he's got these dark blue eyes too as well. That suit, this jacket right here, it mirrors his value appropriately. It mirrors all the characteristics of the face. And in return, he looks handsome. He looks sharper. He comes into focus more. If you sort of squint at either of these photos here, and again, you just sort of look at this, just try to absorb it, on the left, he looks much better. He looks, you know, handsome, crisp, clear. On the right, he looks a bit pale and washed out. He looks kind of grayish. What's happening here is that this jacket is no longer pulling out his facial characteristics. It's now pulling out his skin. So what happens a lot of the time is that people are wearing a color that mirrors their skin tone too much. That is the term washed out. Most people, when they use that term, they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And so what washed out means is, hey, I'm wearing a value that's actually pulling out my skin tone rather than a value that is pulling out my facial characteristics. It's most important to pull out the characteristics, because if we didn't have a hairline and eyes and eyebrows and facial hair, we would all just be glowing orbs of skin, right? And we actually wouldn't be able to communicate, right? There would be nothing there. We wouldn't be able to see expressions. And the other thing, too, is you got to think about when we call someone handsome or beautiful, whatever it is, we're not looking at a glowing white orb. We're looking at the characteristics of the face. We're trying to get that to pull out, not the skin tone. We pull out skin tone, typically, we're going to look pale, pasty, and white. But even if you have color, well, what happens is all of that just blends together and the clothing washes you out. So your job is to mirror the characteristics of the face, not the skin. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. So figure out where you're at here from light to dark. And again, remember it's a sliding scale. So just chart yourself out appropriately and you're good to go. All right, so now you should have your ideal value and your ideal hue. And if you have that information, things become pretty easy. We're going to take this again, keep going a little bit deeper with it. But right now, all you have to do is mirror your hue and your value in your clothing. Easier said than done, I know. But let's think about this. If we're using our correct value, which let's just say it's darker, and our correct hue, let's just say it's cooler, all we got to do is wear dark, cool colors. It's like, think about what that is. Okay, dark blue, dark green, dark burgundy, dark purple, right? Like, oh, great, cool. Those are the colors that I'm going to shoot for. That's how easy this is. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make this visual. We're going to be able to turn this into an actual palette of colors so you can see it, right? But get your mind thinking in the right way, that all you have to do here is just mirror those two things, and that's it. So by wearing the right hue and the right value, you're bringing out that same coloring from your face. You're bringing out all the good stuff. So once you figure that out, you look your best. It's as simple as that. Okay, so let's make it visual. You should have an idea of what looks best on you now, saying, okay, I'm here in terms of value, I'm here in terms of hue. Let's take it a step further, and what we'll do is we will translate this into a visual representation. Okay, so we're going to take the data that we have on your hue and your value, and you're going to learn how to make it into your perfect color palette. Okay, so when we're determining a palette of colors for you, we're going to translate this into a visual example. Kind of think about like an actual palette of colors that you might get from like a Home Depot paint shop, right? It's sort of a list of colors, like a paintbrush thing. And so these colors visually will be a guideline for you to show you exactly what to wear. So we're going to find the set or the palette of colors that works best for you by finding the colors that have the same hue and value as you do. Okay, so remember, the right colors for you are the ones that mirror what's here. Your hue and your value, that is up here, all right? So hopefully that makes sense so far. Hue and value equal your perfect color palette. So in this color analysis process that we're talking about here, we describe the palettes of color as seasons. Again, this is not a me thing. Color analysis is the industry standard, but it also works for interior decorators. It works for clothing designers. It works for a whole bunch of different things. So in this color analysis process, we describe the palettes of color as seasons. Seasons being the normal ones that you would hear: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And we use this term because the colors in each palette, right, the colors in each season, they just depict what you'd see in nature during that season, right? Autumn colors look autumny. That's an easy one, right? Think about autumn. If you close your eyes for a sec, you're like, what colors do you see? That's the autumn color palette. We can do that with winter, spring, or summer. Looks something like this, right? So in winter, you're going to have a lot of cooler, darker colors. It's stormy, it's icy, right? Gray skies, sleet, snow, rain, dark, cloudy, stormy. Spring, it's going to be bright, light, and warm. Sun's shining, flowers are growing, right? Lots of pastel-y colors in those flowers, right? Lots of yellow sunshine. Then we go down to summer. It's going to be nice and cool and lighter. Think about the ocean, right? Think about blue, crisp, clear blue skies, sandy beach colors, right? And then autumn, you're going to look at leaves changing, earthy tones, deep greens, foresty colors, mud, dirt, right? That kind of stuff. Just spitballing, but you get the idea here, right? You're looking at what colors you find in each season. Now, what we're doing here is the colors in each season, we're just trying to slot you into one of these seasons, the season that's going to look best on you, basically. All right? So hopefully, maybe you already got your wheels turning a little bit. Now, each season's color palette reflects just what you'd find in nature during that season. So hopefully that's pretty clear. There are certain colors that appear in certain seasons in nature, right? You typically don't find flowers growing when it's hailing and snowing and it's 10 feet of snow. You're not going to find this, right? So each season has specific colors. Now, the cool thing here is that these things work harmoniously like they do in nature, right? So these colors, they all work together. And I'll illustrate that a bit further. But here's your palette, right? So you have winter, you have autumn, you have summer, and you have spring. Now, here's kind of what the colors would look like from all of those seasons, okay? If you just extracted them out. Gives you a rough look at that. But what's really cool about this is that once you determine what your palette is, what your season is, remember those terms are interchangeable, all the stuff in that will pair together. So you determine what colors look best on you, but then also all of those colors are going to pair together. Give you an example. Inside of this autumn thing here, no color really looks out of place, right? You got some darker green, some orange, you got that warm sky. Everything looks fairly normal. What about spring? Nothing really looks out of place here, right? We're not like, oh, that pink flower doesn't pair with that yellow flower. No, everything looks appropriate, right? Same thing with winter and summer. God, the universe, whatever you will have, is a pretty dang good designer. And color theory and color analysis just base and replicate stuff around that. What happens if you take this tree and you put it here, and you and I are walking down this street? You think we're not going to double take that and just be like, what the heck is that? Right? That doesn't look right there. But guys do this with their outfits all the time. They just smash things together left and right, and they expect it to pair. And they go, Patrick, you got to fly out here, man, because I don't know what's going on. I got a big walk-in closet full of stuff, and it just doesn't make sense. Right? It's because they're mixing all this stuff. Just like you couldn't plant a flower over here, and it would look right, you can't do it with the clothing either. So we start with what makes you look good. And then we figure out what those colors look like, and then by extension of that, all of them pair together. We start with one big domino. You tackle that, all of it falls over. right? It's the easiest thing once you have systems put in place, right? So by doing this, our goal, right, it's find that color season, the one that makes you look good, the one that mirrors the aspects of your coloring. Again, colors here should flow into this, right? Face and body should have some harmony there. So we're going to determine that. So we're finding the palette or the season that has the same hue and value you do. This will do two things. Makes you look your best by bringing out all the good stuff. It mirrors and brings out and pairs with all the elements of your natural coloring. Again, blue eyes, blue shirt type of thing, right? It does that at a much deeper level. Second, it's going to allow you to pair without thinking. All the color palettes or the colors in the color palette naturally pair together. We're not worried about where to plant this tree. It goes with everything here. Right? Wouldn't make sense here in the winter, but it would down here. So, again, two awesome things that happen. To sum it up, what we're doing is creating synergy. We're creating synergy between your natural color palette and your natural coloring. Where's your natural color palette, right? If we had to extract all the colors out of your coloring, just like we did here with these seasons, we'd be doing it from your face. We'd be thinking, okay, we're going to grab that eye color. We're going to grab that hair color, that facial hair color, that skin color, right? We're going to grab all that, and what we're going to do is we're going to create synergy. We're going to create some harmony with the clothing that you own. And the clothing we're going to get in your seasonal color palette. Okay, so it's just creating this cyclical sort of harmony between both. So in and out, there's a lot of flow between face and body. So hopefully that makes sense. Now what we'll do is we'll figure out what season you fall into. Okay, so let's get into your personal color analysis so you can figure out which one of these seasons you are. You might have some ideas percolating. You might have some thoughts already here. Let's dive into this. Okay, so this is how we translate this. So first, understand that certain seasons have characteristics, right? So on the darker end, you're going to have winter and autumn. Those are dark value seasons, whereas summer and spring are lighter seasons, just like we would see in nature, right? Think about all the colors you see in spring and summer versus all the colors you see in winter and autumn. So winter and autumn are darker, spring and summer are lighter. Now, with cool and warm here, we're looking at hue, right? So this is our axis of value. This is our axis of hue, all right? So what we're looking at here is when between cool and warm. So cooler seasons are going to be winter and summer, and warmer seasons are going to be autumn and spring. So the idea is to figure out where you fall here. So what you can do is you can think, all right, well, let me chart myself out here so that I can figure out where I fall. So, you know, maybe you're like, okay, I'm a little dark. It's like, all right, great. You put your value here. And then maybe you're really, really warm. Maybe you're just a little warm. Right? But what you're going to do is you're going to figure out, okay, cool. Well, I am an autumn. Or maybe you're light and cooler, right? You go, okay, I got more cooler coloring, and I'm a little, maybe I'm here on the value spectrum, and I'm here on the cool side of things, right? It's like, okay, great. You're a summer. Whoops, right? So that's how that works. So ideally, you're going to figure out which one of these you are based on the previous data. And I'm also going to give you some visual examples too. So if you're not sure just yet, stick around still, because this is going to make a lot more sense as we go through, okay? So now let's take a look at what those seasons look like. So these are going to be winter colors. The typical winter colors that you'll see. So you're going to see more greens, you're going to see burgundies, purples, and lots of blue. Summer is going to be that, but lighter versions of that, right? So it's just taking those cooler colors but making them a little lighter. Autumn is going to look more like this, right? So you're going to have fewer cooler colors and more browns and more reds and even some orange and things in there. And spring is going to be that same thing, but it's going to be lighter versions of that, right? So that's it. It's as easy as it is, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through some seasonal examples of men who are in these groups. So maybe you can identify. So even if you didn't understand exactly where you fall, you can use these examples to help you along your way. Winter folks are going to look like this. See, typically they're going to have more blue eyes. They're going to typically have a little bit more pinkishness to their skin, and they're usually going to have darker features, right? So they're going to have the darker hair and the darker eyebrows, right? And sometimes dark eyes too as well. So cooler and darker is what we have with winter. Summer, cooler and lighter, Okay, so you're still going to have that same coolness. You're still going to have usually blue or green eyes. You're going to have more pinkishness to the skin, almost like a silvery kind of bluish thing that radiates off them a little bit, but the characteristics are going to be lighter, right? So winter and summer are cool seasons. Then we move to autumn, okay? So autumn is going to be darker and warmer, right? So you'll see here that everyone got a little bit deeper. There's a lot more browns to their coloring. Sometimes there's almost like a reddish kind of coppery thing to their hair, sometimes very clearly, right? So it becomes more olive and brown and copper and things of that nature. That's what works in. So darker value, slightly warmer, okay? So there you have that. So warmer and darker, going to be the autumn. Now, spring is going to be light and warm, okay? So now you're going to see, sometimes you're still going to see those blue eyes, right? But you're also going to see more reddishness to their coloring. Like if you look at their hair color, it almost has a tinge of orange or red to it. So lighter colors, right? But warmer on that spectrum. So try to figure out where you fall on this, right? Whether you are a winter, whether you are a summer, a autumn, or a spring. Sometimes it helps to start with value and then determine from there what your hue is. You can go the other way too. So if you know that you're darker, you're obviously going to be either a winter or an autumn. And then you can just kind of figure out where you fall from there. If you're lighter, we know, okay, well, you're going to be a summer or a spring. And then you just figure out if you feel like you feel or gravitate towards warmer colors, right? You have warmer coloring, or if you steer a little bit cooler. All right, so that's that. So that is how you figure out what colors look best on you, and again, how all that works. That process, like I said, it used to be very, very in-depth. I mean, it still is. It's very intense, and it's taken me years to be able to summarize it like that. Like I said, it used to cost thousands of dollars. Some lady would come to your house and drape some stuff over you and then be like, okay, we think you look good in this, and then send you on your way. So now the fact that we can do it like this is great, but also it paints a picture for you, and you can understand it a bit better. You understand what you're looking at and why certain colors look good on you. If I just told you, hey, orange is good for you, you'd be like, I don't know, man, right? But if you can start to dissect it yourself, it's great. And doing this, it's almost like seeing the Matrix. When I first started understanding color, decade and a half ago, and understanding what worked well for me, right when you put it on, you can almost see it. And I'll give you one more tip. Typically with color analysis, if there are already a lot of colors in your closet that you feel work well for you, if you look into the closet and you see a lot of light blue and a lot of light green, chances are you're going to be a summer because you already have light and cooler colors. And maybe if you look in the closet and you have a lot of dark brown, dark burgundy, right? Maybe even a couple things of just almost a reddish, brickish orange kind of thing in there, you're probably going to be in autumn. What I'm getting at here is that trust your intuition. Humans are really good at picking up on BS, right? We're really good at looking at something and being like, that ain't right. And we're also really good at picking up on beauty. You and I can take a trip and walk into a beautifully designed hotel and not know anything about architecture, but understand that it looks good. We can look at a beautiful car and understand that it looks really good, but not know a thing about car design. So some of it is trusting your intuition there a little bit. And usually what I find is 99% of the time that guys will have an inkling of what colors already work well for them too. So a lot of that is, just trusting your gut a little bit. Let's talk about how to pair color, right? So this is the other hang up that guys have, is thinking about, well, how the heck do I pair everything together? First off, remember that everything from that color palette is going to pair incredibly well. Everything in that palette pairs together, just like it does in nature. It can't not. It's all part of the same season, right? It would just be like I said before, and I used that example of just being like, this flower doesn't look right here. It's like, of course it does. So everything will pair. But I know that sometimes guys want more useful tactical tips, and that's what we're going to get into here, how to pair color. So first is understanding neutrals. Neutrals are the magic key to pairing. Every celebrity, every one of your favorite style influencers, every model, all of them use neutrals the majority of the time. So let's understand what a neutral is. A neutral is basically it's a color that is without color. it's a non-color, if you will. Neutral colors then don't compete with other colors, right? They can complement them. I know this is a little bit of a funny description, but basically what you need to understand here is that neutral colors are really not colors in a sense. When we look at neutrals or when we look at colors, those are the things that appear on a color wheel. Neutrals are the thing that we don't find on a color wheel. So the key here is that neutrals aren't actually colors. So they pair perfectly fine with things that are. When I say that I'm neutral on a topic, or you are neutral on a topic, what are we saying there, right? What are we saying when we're neutral? It's like, well, you know, it's basically like, well, this doesn't matter, right? It's like, whoop, there we go. This doesn't matter. The topic, right? I don't care about it. And so the idea here is that colors are the same way. They can't compete. They have no skin in the game. So that's the idea here, is that neutrals really don't matter. They don't have a opinion, and they cannot compete, right? So let's get back into this here. So anything that you don't see on this wheel here is a neutral. All of these are actual colors, right? So basically what we're doing here is we are looking at, keep this here, we are looking at the list of colors, basically, that are real colors. Anything that's not here is a complete neutral. So when you look at a color wheel, there are two things that you don't see, okay? The idea here, basically, is grayscale and brown, right? So grayscale and brown are going to be the colors that we don't see on the color wheel. And we'll get further into this, too, as well. So we'll kind of talk about what this means a bit more specifically. So these things, right? So grayscale is anything that is white to black, right? So basically anything white to black, this range of colors. Browns are going to be the stuff on the right here. So all of this mess. Now, we'll talk about browns in a little bit and kind of how you get it, but what you'll notice here is that you don't see brown on the color wheel. Brown actually isn't technically a color. These are all the primary colors, right? So you see grayscale and you see browns. That's it. So your closet should basically be made up of enough neutrals to where things are really easy to pair, okay? So a good benchmark that we like to recommend is around 50%. If you want a more minimal wardrobe, if you want, you know, small closet, you're looking at 60 to 70%. If you have a big old walk-in closet that you want to fill up, you're looking at about 30 to 40%. But neutrals are the key to pairing, okay? If you have enough neutrals in the closet, you never have to worry about anything, because you can take and you can pair something like a neutral with any color. If I had a white t-shirt on underneath this jacket, it would pair perfectly fine, right? Because the shirt underneath has no impact on the color. It's very important. So the idea here is that they're also going to pair well with each other. So you have all brown neutral, and then you have all grayscale neutral. You can easily do that stuff. So let's dive into grayscale a little bit further. So grayscale, again, is just a range of tones from white to black. So that's basically it. These are considered achromatic, meaning without color. If I take the color, if I desaturate a picture or a picture of a color or whatever, a picture of your face, a picture of a tree, if I desaturate it, it turns gray. So basically, when we take away color, so grayscale is just achromatic. Anything here, white to black, basically, is what we're looking at. Because grayscale colors aren't actually colors, they pair perfectly well with ones that are. Again, no impact, right? They are completely neutral. They have no impact. And so you can kind of think about it like the background of this presentation. Why do you typically see backgrounds that are white? Because they don't interfere with the stuff on the presentation, right? Why is a gallery wall white? Because it doesn't interfere with the painting. Imagine if this presentation was like deep dark red. Wouldn't work as well. Some things would get jumbled up here, right? You wouldn't be able to see certain colors. Might clash with other colors here. So basically, the idea is we use grayscale and pair it with these colors. Whenever you don't know what to pair with a color, grayscale. Easily paired. So if you're like, I don't know what to pair this burgundy jacket with, I don't know what to pair this crazy green sweater with, great. Instantly, your head should go to grayscale. It's the easiest way to pair outfits when you're first starting out. You can also pair all grayscale stuff together, just like this. Okay, so a lot of people, when we're developing wardrobes, sometimes, random guys on the internet will say things like, oh man, that's so boring. Gray is so boring. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Stuff like this looks great. It's all grayscale. And then you show them things like this, and they're like, yeah, I guess, yeah, okay. You don't need color, right? We need certain colors that make us look good. Sure, great. But grayscale gives us the ability to pair everything. So again, the more minimal wardrobe you have, the more grayscale you want in the closet. So around, again, 50%. And then the other 50% is going to be color. What color, might you ask? Great question. The colors that look good on you. The stuff in your palette. So it's like 50% grayscale, 50% color palette. Give or take a little bit on either end. All right? So that's basically it. So think about it like this. This is how easy it is. You have a pair of gray trousers. We could choose any top we wanted here. It could be burgundy. It could be green. It could be purple. It could be blue, like it is. And it's all going to work because these trousers are gray. Pretty cool, right? Same thing with this suit jacket. I'm wearing gray trousers, right? Same deal here. I'm going to give this burgundy jacket to this guy, right? We're going to take this jacket, we're going to put it on him. Does it still work? Yep. Why? Well, because this is nothing. Grayscale is nothing. It's a neutral, right? It's almost as if it doesn't exist. If you think about non-existence, infinity, blankness, your mind is probably going to think black, white, or gray. That's how easy it is. So I like to actually, as a side note, I like to keep a lot of my trousers in gray because it then affords me the ability to change whatever I want around the top. Pretty cool, right? The idea here, I like this quote. Genius and virtue are to be more often found clothed in gray than peacock bright. Most guys think that they need color, color, color. And I have worked with almost 1,000 men at this point for the past decade, and the one thing that I see that screws up their style more than anything else is they look at color when they're out in a store, and they're like, okay, cool, that looks good. And they bring it home, and they realize that they have too much color, and it doesn't really pair with anything. So the idea here is that if you simplify, you can strategically add in colors that look good on you. If you have too much color, right? Peacock bright. If you're using that, you're often going to look worse than just the guy who made his entire wardrobe out of grayscale. Guys think they need color to fix their style problems. They don't. It's something else, okay? So just know that. Start by building that foundation and then add in the color. We'll move on to brown. So brown is our second neutral, okay? Brown is kind of a weird in-between of grayscale and what you found in the color wheel. So brown is what we call a composite, okay? It is produced by mixing the primary colors together. It's pretty cool. You actually, if we can find a color wheel here, you actually don't see, I'm going to see if I can find one real quick, but if you look at a color wheel, you're not going to see brown because it's a mixture of all that stuff. And so we have many different types of brown, right? So we have ones that, are lighter, some that are darker, and some that are cooler and warmer, which we'll get into in just a sec. But again, just remember that it's produced by mixing your primary colors together. So what's cool about brown is he's kind of related to everybody. He's got a little color in all of them, right? And so you can think about him as like the cousin. So he, rather than thinking about our grayscale guy is like, hey, I'm neutral on this. I'm not even playing this game. Brown is like, I'm friends with everybody. I'm the most popular guy here. None of you hate me because you're all kind of related to me, right? So black, white, and gray, they're not even playing the game. Brown is playing on both teams. Think about it like that, all right? So, again, this is how you get brown. If you look at the center there, that's where you're going to find it. The reason browns work well is that they are that little bit. They're related, okay? So just kind of think about that. You can use brown quite easily because of the fact that he's got a little bit of everybody in him. Now, it's trickier than grayscale. So a lot of the times, like when I just said that, how it's related to everybody and then it pairs easily, you probably were like, I don't know, Patrick. I've tried some browns before, and I don't think it paired really well with this other thing that I was trying. Good point. So we're going to talk about why. But when you think of stuff in your closet, think about what those are. I just want to give you an example of this really quick. Most of your shoes are going to be black, white, gray, or brown. Completely neutral. Why? Clothing manufacturers understand that those colors pair really, really well. And most guys have 30 tops, maybe, and 5 pairs of shoes, just on average, right? Those 5 pairs of shoes better go with all that stuff. So if you had a hot pink pair of shoes, probably not going to get worn much. Not a really good investment from a clothing manufacturer side or your side. So the idea is that neutrals work. So second best option to pair is if you have no idea on what to wear. Browns are a really great second option. Okay, so think about brown a little bit further. So first we get brown by adding all this stuff together. Now we can make a brown lighter or we can make a brown darker. Kind of cool, right? If we add white to a brown, it becomes a little lighter. If we add black to a brown, it becomes a little darker. That's how brown works, okay? So we can make a brown, we can adjust its value, right? We can make it lighter or darker. And you'll see stuff like this. We can also make browns warmer or cooler. Take a look at these browns really quick. Do you see how some almost look like they have maybe a little bit more blue added to them, and then these other ones kind of look like they have more red or orange or yellow added to them? We can adjust how warm or cool a brown is, and this is why you've had difficulty pairing brown in the past. What we're looking at here is because color, right, or because brown is a mixture of all these things together, right, the primaries together, what happens if we bump up the cool side a little bit? Instead of 50-50 splits here, maybe we raise this to 70-30. 30% warm, 70% cool. That brown is going to look a lot cooler. Now we could do the reverse too, right? So we could increase our brown, our warmth, or our coolness, depending on what we want. So a warm brown is going to look like this. A cool brown is going to be like this. It's very subtle. Warmer browns are going to look brickish. They're going to look reddish and orange. Warmer browns are almost going to look more silvery or blue, just like in the hue section that we covered. So what happens sometimes is guys will be wearing, let's say, a cooler colored shirt or a cooler colored outfit, and then they will go pair it with a brown that's like a warm, a brickish orangey brown. And they're like, something's wrong here. It's just that the mixture of the brown was off. Okay, so browns are kind of interesting because they're not warmer or cooler. A lot of people incorrectly think that brown is a warm color. It's not. Brown can be warm, but it can also be cool. Just depends on the mixture that you put in. All right, so here's kind of another look at it, right? So you're going to see a little bit more warm on this side. You're going to see a little bit cooler on this side, just so you can, see, you're going to see more yellow. And then as we move down, you're going to see more orange in that brown. See how that works? So that's kind of the difference between browns. So if your brown that you're looking at looks kind of reddish or orangey, that's something that is going to be on that warmer side of the spectrum and should be worn by warmer people with other warm items surrounding it because it's going to pair well. Cooler browns can have that more bluish kind of silvery thing and be worn by cooler colored people and be paired around cooler colored items. All right? So that's brown. So if first remember what neutrals are. The idea is that grayscale is going to pair with basically everything, and it's completely neutral. Browns are going to be your second best option when you don't know what to pair with something because they are a mixture of everybody. All you have to do is you have to make sure that your outfits, if they are cooler, you're wearing a cooler brown. If you're wearing warmer outfits, you're going to wear a warmer brown. And that solves brown. And that solves neutral pairing. Most of your items you're going to pair with some kind of neutral. I like doing 50-50 splits a lot of the time. If I'm wearing a color on top, I'm going to wear neutral on the bottom. If I'm wearing a neutral on the bottom of my, pairing thing, my layering thing, I'm going to wear a color on the top. And that's how I split that stuff up. The next thing is monochromatic dressing. Monochromatic, let's get into this, is the idea that we're making the color, we're pairing it with the same color. All right? You can adjust the value here a little bit, but the color remains unchanged. So a lot of people think that they can't wear the same color together. You absolutely can. Because you want to know the best color pairing for a color? It's the same color. What pairs best with blue? Blue. Because it's the same dang thing, right? it's impossible for it to not pair. It's the same color. It can't not pair. So like here, what we've done is we've adjusted the value a little bit. We've said, okay, great, we're going to wear a little bit of a lighter blue, and then we're going to wear a darker blue on top of that. That's an easy way to just sort of adjust the value, but wear the same color. So the second step here is if you don't know what to wear, okay, and you don't want to wear neutrals, wear the same color. Top and bottom, inside, outside, however you want to do it. These outfits are all monochromatic. Maybe we do it with brown. Maybe we do it with blue. Maybe we do it with tan. I mean brown, right? But you get the idea. It's where we're wearing the same color. And by the way, some of this is all grayscale too as well. So that's an easy way to do it. Just stick with one color and then use that inside, outside, or up and down, or whatever. You don't have to make the whole outfit that, but it can be a very easy way to pair things. So just remember, the best color pairing is the same color. Easy way to solve your outfits. Okay, now a couple more things. We're going to talk about analog colors, and then we're going to talk about some complementary colors too. So analogous colors are ones that are found right next to each other, kind of like this. Right next door. The idea here is that the colors that you find right next door are going to pair really well together, because it's usually, again, what you would see in nature. Think about when you see a sunset. It's not just orange. It's like this. It's like yellow, medium orange, dark orange, red, right? It's a lot of different things. Look at an ocean. It's light blue, dark blue, green, right? It's got all of those colors. So the colors that are right next door to each other can pair really well. So if you're ever stumped on what to do in terms of pairing a color with another color, you can just wear the one that's right next door. Now, this already sort of makes sense, right? Because if you think about if I'm cooler, I'm going to wear cooler colors. Well, then great. Yeah, of course. Like you're going to pair blue and green together, right? Or something like that. If you're warmer, you might pair some, yellow and orange together or something like that. So the idea is that right next door to each other, they're going to work really well. I'm getting ahead of myself. You'll find this naturally. A good practice for you is to think about spotting this in nature. Go look at the sky tomorrow. Go look at the ocean. Go look at the sun. And you'll see how this works. And you can use the same thing in your outfits. Just like that. See the green, see the blue, see the red, see the yellow, see the orange. Kind of cool, right? You'll see this in other areas too. Interior design being one of them. When we're looking at pairing something like a room like this together, look at all the yellow and the orange, or the yellow and the green, or the purple and the green, right? See how right next door to each other on these wheels here, you're going to find that color. All right, so that's an easy way to do things. Where I typically do this, by the way, is in smaller doses. You can do it, like let's do an example of like sport coat and shirt. I could wear a green sport coat with a blue shirt. But a lot of the times what I'm going to do is I might do something smaller, like a pocket square. If I'm trying to find a pocket square for a green jacket, right, a forest green jacket, I might choose a blue. Right? Because I know that color is going to complement. So just more in small doses rather than large ones. So again, the idea here, it works well for full outfits, but ideally it's just small stuff, accessorizing. So I use the example of a pocket square, but this could be ties. This could be, pocket squares, different patterns on shirts, things of that nature. Otherwise, you kind of run the risk of this. Very, very bold. Which, if you're going for that, fantastic. Great. You now have a system for it. But most guys don't want to look like that. So just smaller doses, such as this. See the yellow and the green, right? See the red and the orange. Kind of cool. You'll also see this in pattern. See how all of these are blue-green? Blue for the pattern, green for the shirt. Green for the shirt, blue for the pattern. Once you start seeing this stuff, it's like seeing the Matrix. It's really cool. So that's what that looks like, just at a deeper level. So move one deviation to the left or right whenever you're trying to find a small accessory or pair an outfit together. All right? So kind of plot yourself and say, okay, I'm going to go over here or I'm going to go over here. I'm trying to pair, some kind of weird blue something or other. I might choose green. I might choose purple. It's as easy as that. Complementary colors are ones that are found directly across from each other. So like this. This looks, again, better with bolder looks. So if you're trying to really stand out, this is how you pair things. This can be used for, like I said before, smaller doses are how you're usually going to find this, unless you're trying to do a much bolder look. So incredibly bold look, right? That's something we want to stay away from, because you'll see a lot of contrast between those two items. You're going to see warmth and coolness paired together, which typically don't work. There's a lot of like contrast there, right? There's a lot that sort of clashes, but the colors will technically work together because they are sort of complete opposite. Again, this is very, very bold. So you want to kind of, you're probably going to look like this. And so some guys like this. They want bold looks. They just don't understand how to put it together. Well, congratulations. Now you do. You're doing complementary colors and you're doing analogous colors. Unless, you know, so if it works for Batman, probably works for you. But see how that works? Right? So you're directly across from certain things. This is gonna bring home the two concepts that we just talked about. So first, I want you to look here, 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 and here. Okay? Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Analogous. Now what I want you to do is look at the jacket compared with everything here. Right? What's across from these two? Boom. So, when clothing designers, costume designers are thinking about these things, they're doing just like this. And you can take this home too. And again, you're probably going to be using this in smaller doses, but this is a look at how you do that. It's like magic. It's really cool. So if you understand these concepts, it's not pie in the sky stuff where you're just like, oh, I don't know, man. You put the right systems in place and things become really easy. I like it like this, small doses. We're doing complementary here, and then we're doing something where it's more analogous here. But we're not choosing crazy, crazy boldness. So if we're doing it, it's a little splash. That's how that typically looks best. Let's quickly talk about chroma. So chroma is going to be the purity of a color, or we'll say the intensity of the color, how saturated the color is, right? So a fully saturated color we're going to describe as high chroma. It's going to look very bright and shiny and vibrant and vivid. And when we describe something as low chroma, it's typically going to look softer or dull or muted or drab, okay? So these are terms that you've probably heard. Let's describe it a little bit further. Softer colors are going to be on the left here. They're going to be toned down. They're going to be more muted. They're going to be a little bit like more drab looking, not in a bad way, right? The stuff on the right is going to be brighter. It's going to be more vivid and vibrant. So these colors are fully saturated. These ones, we've taken away a little saturation there. We've almost made it so that they are moving towards gray. We've actually added a little bit of gray here. Just like if you were to desaturate, let's do this in real time, huh? Just like if we were to desaturate a photo. Ah, shoot, can we not do that? We're doing this. So let's take these, and I'll give you an example. If we take this and we desaturate, what happens? Da-da-da! They get softer looking. So a bright color, fully saturated, a soft color, we've removed some of that saturation. So these here, the thing to remember is that they don't pair together. You can't wear something high chroma and low chroma together. You can kind of see that, right? That these don't really mix. So when you're pairing higher chroma stuff, you want to make sure that the other items that are surrounding it are also higher chroma. So softer stuff with softer, brighter stuff with brighter, okay? So just make sure that it is a consistent level throughout. Again, these do not work together. This is a good example. If you had a very, very bright tie and then a softer colored jacket like this, it's not going to work. Something like this that's a bit more toned down, that could work, right? It doesn't have that same intensity, that same vibrancy, right? Here's a good example. Look how soft that is. Look how bright and shiny this is. Does this look right to you? Probably not. But this is the risk that you run when you pair low chroma and high chroma stuff together. All right, so lastly, as we bring this home, one of the things that you have to understand, and I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about what colors or what season looks good on you, is you should give yourself a bit more credit for being able to discern what looks good on you and what doesn't. We have a good eye for color. So not only understanding maybe these colors look better on me than these other ones, but also what pairs together. If you are wearing a color and you are like, you know what, this doesn't pair. These two colors don't pair together. Probably doesn't. You're probably onto something. You've been able to pick that stuff out since you were born. Babies will prefer to look at better color patterns or even more beautiful things. Like, this is proven with humans. Like, babies would much rather look at a more attractive human than a non-attractive human. Babies, like, we don't even understand that stuff, right? So your intuition, it'll give you a lot. Trust your gut. If you don't feel something's right, it probably isn't. So figure out what it is. Is it a chroma issue? Is it a hue or a value issue? Right? Are you wearing warm colors and you should be wearing cool ones? Use this training and then work your way through, and then use the tools that we talked about too in order to fix the problem. You don't know what to pair with something. You're like, this jacket, it doesn't pair with this bottom that I have. It doesn't pair with this shirt. Great. Grayscale. Or neutral color. Easy. Or great. Go to monochromatic. It's going to pair. So those tools are tools in the toolkit that you can use to make sure everything pairs. But again, high level, once you figure out what colors look good on you, it's super, super easy. So thinking about it here, using those frameworks that we talked about, understanding grayscale, chroma, and monochromatic dressing can help you dissect what's working and what's not. But like I said, high level, we already did this. If you just stick to the color palette and you wear those colors, everything will pair. So 50%, rough number, 50% color, which is going to be your good color palettes, and then 50% neutrals. That's it. It's like seeing the Matrix. Guys have said this more than once, and now I like the term, so I use this. Seeing the Matrix, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. You will look at, go just after this, go Google men's style. Go look at how much grayscale is in there. Go look at the warm and cool, how they pair together. Go look at the complementary things. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is just how people pair outfits. Yep. Because those are systems that until now you didn't understand. You just think, some guys got it, some guys don't. Nope. It's systems that once you install, it becomes better and better. And the cool thing is that over time, you become better and better at color analysis. You become better and better at understanding what works well for you and why. You become better at picking out the colors that look good for you. Right at the start, you might be like, okay, cool, I think I know what season I am, and go shop for stuff. You might feel a little hazy. Give it 2 weeks. Give it a month. You're done. I don't look at colors when I'm going out shopping for myself. I understand what colors look well for me, good for me. And you will too, right? So you won't even think about it. It becomes a reflex. And that's the point that we're trying to get you to. We'll end on some extra color tips, okay? So just some things to think about as we're going through. These are common questions or common myths that I hear that we need to dispel a little bit. So one, you don't need to have contrast between the top and the bottom of your outfit. So a lot of guys will say, oh man, well if I wear, black pants, I got to have a white top. Nope. No, you don't. There's no reason for that. You can wear the same value top and bottom. It's perfectly fine. In fact, it's actually going to make you look taller. It's something called monochromatic dressing that we do for shorter guys because it doesn't cut them in half. If you have black bottoms and a white top, it sort of will cut you in half, very much like this. Your visual image gets cut, right? So you'll see here that he looks a lot shorter on this side than he does over here because the value here makes more sense together. It doesn't contrast. Here, our eye goes to the waist. Human eye is always drawn towards contrast. Right here, cuts his image in half. So you don't have to do contrast top and bottom. You can. I do it for taller guys very deliberately, and I stay away from it for my shorter guys very deliberately. So just decide what you want to do. But you certainly do not need to contrast top and bottom. This is a personal thing. I typically enjoy keeping my pants darker colored most of the time. 80% of my pants are darker rather than lighter. This serves function. There is no color theory thing behind this, but I figured I'd throw it in here anyway. The reason for this is because darker colors are slimming, number one. So it's going to slim down your legs and make them look a little longer. Number 2 is that it hides stains. So if you sit in something, if you spill something in your lap, which for whatever reason, I always find that when I wear white pants and I go out to dinner with the girlfriend or something, it's like, I don't know how that happened, right? But darker color is going to hide that. So that helps, but it's also going to hide wrinkles. When you're looking at wrinkles on a pair of pants, you're looking at shadows that are being created on the fabric. That's what a wrinkle is. If you were just to wear, imagine that if you were just to wear a dark version of this, imagine these become black. It hides those shadows more than a light color. So it's helpful for that too. All right, so third thing is we're going to avoid colors that bring out the bad in our face. Now, we already talked about this a little bit with the color analysis side of things, but this is more maybe situational. Sometimes guys have acne. Sometimes guys are getting a little bit more gray in their hair, stuff like that. We want to avoid mirroring that directly. So I'll give you an example with the gray. Right here, we're mirroring that exact gray. We know this already, but colors pull out colors, right? So colors down here are going to pull out colors up here. If I have gray hair, typically I don't want to pull that out. Look at over here. What is this now doing? Same dude, by the way, right? So this is pulling out now the darker eyes, the eyebrows, the depth of the hair. So now we're looking past the gray. This pulls out the gray, this doesn't. This is exactly what we talked about being washed out before. So if you have something like this, or maybe you have acne, right? It's like those little red spots. Well, we're going to avoid that, right? We want to avoid wearing bright red then. Okay, so just some extra tips there. So hopefully now you kind of realize this, but color is freaking awesome. It's really cool to be able to understand what looks good on you, to understand how to execute, and then understand how to pair that all together. And again, this is going to save you thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of your life, and it's going to save you countless hours of trial and error, getting bad things, putting it together, not understanding why it doesn't work, going into a store and not knowing what to look for. Now you have a streamlined system that you can use to not only choose the right colors for yourself, but understand why those colors work for you, and then understand how to pair them. That's pretty crazy. So what this does is it puts up the bumper lanes for you. It says, out of all the directions that you could be traveling, here's your true north. And if you do that, then color becomes extremely simple, and it becomes something that you understand for the rest of your life, because your coloring, your core coloring doesn't change. And so once you understand this, it's done. It's sort of like it gives you returns on your investment again and again and again. So hopefully now you, like us, we think color is pretty cool, and we hope you do too. So the color workshop here, you'll be able to download the PDF here. But again, hopefully this was helpful. Start putting this into practice ASAP. Go through your closet, get rid of anything that doesn't work. But also, too, start looking at this stuff out in the open. See what you notice out in nature. See what you notice with other guys' outfits. See what you notice on models and online and in Instagram. Guarantee you'll see the matrix too. So again, color's pretty cool. But thank you very much for joining me. Hope this was helpful, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.